students. Here we go. Complex sentences, the third type of sentence. Remember that there are simple sentences, the one that are just one thought with one subject, one predicate, one thought. Some of them have like a compound subject and a compound predicate, but they talk about one idea. Compound sentences, on the other hand, are joined by what we call the coordinating conjunction. Those conjunctions are but, or, so, yet, and the others, right? And they join two simple sentences. They join it using these words. Remember that there should be a comma and the conjunction. Today we'll be talking about complex sentence. Sounds complicated? Don't worry about it, my dear students. Right now we're gonna learn about complex sentences and try to formulate some. What is a complex sentence? A complex sentence basically is one independent clause and one dependent clause being put together by those conjunctions that we discussed in the last video, subordinating conjunctions. An independent clause is something that can stand alone, so it's sort of like a simple sentence. A simple sentence is basically the same thing as an independent clause. For example, I got to the store. That's a simple sentence, right? That is what we mean with independent clause. What do I mean with dependent clause? I mean that the dependent clause cannot stand alone. It's not a sentence. Basically, a dependent clause sounds something like this. When I go to the store, since I appeased the baby, because he beguiled the elderly couple. Notice that all of these dependent clauses start with what word? When, since, because, and all of these are the subordinating conjunctions, the ones that we wrote in our notebook in the last video. So basically, how do you know it's a complex sentence? It has these words, the subordinate conjunctions such as, before, until, once, while, and I told you to write them down in your notebook, right? Now, complex sentences. They are, like we said, one independent clause, one simple sentence, and what we call a dependent clause or a subordinate clause. And these subordinate clauses start with words like after, until, because, if, and the other subordinating conjunction. So these two parts come together to make what we call a complex sentence. Here's an example of a complex sentence. After I came home, I made dinner. Look at it. It has the word after. After is a subordinate conjunction. And I made dinner is a simple sentence. Notice that is a simple sentence. And the subordinate clause, what we call the dependent clause, is right here with the word after. When the dependent clause is before the independent clause, you use a comma, just like this example. So let's say this subordinate clause, also known as the dependent clause, starts the sentence. Notice that there is a comma there. So if you have a word like because or if or after and the rest of the clause, you will put a comma right there. What about when there is a subordinate conjunction at the end? Like here in this case, the word before. The subordinate conjunction along with the subordinate clause, which is before it close, is at the end. What do? Basically, you do not put a comma. Notice how there is no comma here. There is an independent clause or a simple sentence starting it off. We visited the museum. And then before it closed, being the dependent clause, right? The subordinate clause with the subordinate conjunction before. So in that case, you don't put a comma, as I said. That's it for types of sentences. Simple sentence, remember, one idea, one thought. Compound sentence, two simple sentences being put together using a comma and a coordinating conjunction such as and, but, or, so, yet. And now for today, we looked at complex sentence. And these are one simple made up of one simple sentence, and we said a subordinate clause or a dependent clause. What do we mean with that? We mean a clause that has a word like after, until, because, if, and the other subordinating conjunctions, and they come together and they're joined. If the subordinate conjunction like after starts the sentence, you put a comma. If it doesn't, it's at the end of the sentence, it's at the back, like we saw with the example with before. You do not put a comma. And that's it for complex sentence. Have a great day, guys. Try the activity and take care of yourselves. Bye.